Today, we're stepping back 200 years, right into the heart of the colonial New South Wales to uncover the oldest surviving buildings in the country. From the convict-built charm of old Government House to Elizabeth Farm, where the wool industry got its start. We're on a mission to track down the oldest buildings still standing in New South Wales. We'll hit up a dairy cottage, Barracks, and even a Rum Hospital. How many can we visit in one day? Blisters and all, let's find out. We're at Elizabeth Farm, one of the oldest surviving structures in Australia. It was built in 1793 by John and Elizabeth MacArthur. John and Elizabeth were key figures in colonial Australia and the growth of the agricultural industry. The home was constructed using convict labour, and thick brick walls, wide verandas and low-pitched roof were designed to suit the harsh Australian climate, making it one of the earliest examples of adapted colonial architecture. More than just a family home, Elizabeth Farm became a working hub for innovation in the sheep breeding and land management areas, laying the groundwork for a booming wool export industry. This is Experiment Farm Cottage, originally owned by James Bruce, an original convict that got a land grant. It's called Experiment Farm because they asked if he wanted to go out to Parramatta and see if he could be self-sufficient, and it took him 15 months to become self-sufficient and to be able to grow enough grain and food for himself and his wife. It was sold to John Harris, a surgeon from the area, and that's where you get Harris Farm, Harris Street from in Piedmont as well. But this cottage is an early example of colonial Georgian architecture with its thick rendered walls, wide verandas and original cedar joinery. Inside it tells the story of early European ambition, not through grandeur but through persistence and practicality. Now operated by the National Trust, the house is furnished in period-style furniture and offers a quiet window into Australia's agricultural beginnings. It's a humble structure, but its legacy is enormous, and this is where the idea of a self-sustaining colony first took root. We're in front of the Dairy Cottage in Parramatta Park, which is one of the oldest surviving European structures in Australia, believed to have been built around 1796. It was originally the home of George Salter, an ex-convict turned landowner, and later converted into a dairy as part of Governor Macquarie's vision to expand agriculture in the region. It's a rare example of an early colonial cottage, still standing on its original footprint, simple in form, but rich in historical context. The cottage played a small but vital role in the early food supply chain of the colony as part of the working dairy that helped feed the growing settlement. We're in Parramatta Park at Old Government House. This is the oldest public building still in existence in Australia. It was built in 1799. Governor Lachlan Macquarie was the original inhabitant, and since then many governors of New South Wales also lived here. This is a good example of a Georgian-style building, very symmetrical. From this house, decisions were made that shaped the course of Australia's development. Land grants were issued, infrastructure planned and convicts managed. Over time, as Sydney grew and the power shifted, Old Government House was gradually abandoned as a centre of administration. It remained remarkably intact and was eventually preserved as a museum, a rare, tangible link to the early days of European governance in Australia, nestled in the heart of Parramatta. We're in Castle Hill at a place called the Hermitage. It began its life in 1801. A French immigrant, Pierre Lebeau de Venicourt, also known as the Baron de Clampe, he accepted a 200-acre grant from Governor King. So he had dreams of a grand chateau, but he was very short on resources, and he raised a modest one-room slab hut from termite-resistant turpentine. Thought to be the oldest slab hut building in Australia. St John's Anglican Cathedral is the oldest continuous place of Christian worship in Australia, with its origins dating back to 1803. Commissioned by Governor King and later expanded under Governor Macquarie, it has stood at the heart of Parramatta's spiritual and civic life over 2 centuries. The two distinctive twin towers built by convicts in 1818 was locally quarried sandstone and among the most recognisable heritage features of the city. So this church Blends Georgian and Gothic revival styles. The cathedral has undergone several transformations over the years, yet still retains many original elements. Today, St John's remains an active place of worship and a living link to Parramatta's earliest colonial past, a space where faith, history and community continue to converge. So this is Addington House. We're in Hyde. This was built around the 1800s and was originally the home of Reverend William Gore. It's a typical colonial Georgian style house with wide verandas. It's built of stone and brick. Even the outside toilet is made of sandstone. I'll give you a look at that. And it reflects the quiet prosperity of the time. This home was constructed by locally sourced material and sits on lands that were granted to a First Fleet Marine, giving it deep roots in Australia's early European settlement story. Over the years, it has served as a residence, a school, a place of refuge. Although it's often overshadowed by more prominent sites, Addington quietly endures as a rare and authentic link to Parramatta's early residential landscape. It's a reminder that not all colonial stories are about politics and power. Right behind me is Cadman's Cottage, built in 1816. Australia's oldest surviving residential building. It used to house all the coxswain of the people that looked after all the colony's boats. It's right next door to Circular Quay. Let's have a look around. John Cadman was the last and longest serving superintendent of government boats and lived in this cottage from 1827 to 1845. The cottage was once right on the waterfront before the shoreline was reshaped by land reclamation. Over its long life, the cottage has served many roles, from a government residence to the headquarters of our city's water police. It's made of sandstone and hand-shaped bricks. It's a rare survivor of early colonial Sydney. While it might be modest in size, Cadman's Cottage remains a powerful link to the working class foundations of the colony. And it's also a reminder that not all historical figures wore uniforms or held power. Some just rode boats. In the early 1800s, this site looked very different. In 1816, Governor Macquarie built what was known as the Rum Hospital.
Macquarie Street is the historic heart of Sydney, home to some of Australia's most important colonial landmarks. First up, we have the Mint. It was built in 1816 as part of Sydney's first general hospital. It quickly became known as the Rum Hospital. Governor Macquarie struck a deal allowing merchants to import 60,000 gallons of rum in exchange for funding its construction. In the 1850s, it was converted into the Royal Mint, and today it serves as one of the oldest public buildings in all of Australia. A couple of doors to the north is Australia's oldest Parliament building, also dating back to 1816. It began as another wing of the Rum Hospital before being repurposed in the 1820s. Ever since, it has remained the seat of the New South Wales Government. In the middle is what is now the Sydney Hospital Complex, a striking Victoria-era design from the late 19th century. While newer than its neighbours, it adds a dramatic backdrop to Macquarie's street colonial core. Together, these three landmarks capture more than 2 centuries of Sydney's story, from convict hospitals to Parliament and beyond.
I'm at the Lancer Barracks in Parramatta.
Lancer Barracks was built in 1819, making it the oldest continuously used military facility in Australia. Commissioned by Governor Macquarie, Barracks housed British troops stationed in Parramatta to maintain order and protect the colony. Constructed by convict labour using local sandstone, it served as a strategic outpost during a time when the fledgling settlement was still fragile, facing threats from within and beyond.
It's the Hyde Park Barracks, built in 1819 and designed by the convict-turned-architect Francis Greenway. Hyde Park Barracks is one of the most significant convict-era built buildings in Australia. This one was also commissioned by Governor Macquarie. It housed male convicts who were assigned to work in the local colonial government. It was a central hub in the machinery of the early Sydney. With its elegant Georgian symmetry and sturdy sandstone construction, the barracks brought a strange blend of order into a colony's chaotic growth. Over time, the building evolved, serving as an immigration depot, an asylum for destitute women, and even a court. Every chapter left traces that are now carefully preserved and presented through immersive exhibitions. Today, Hyde Park Barracks is a UNESCO World Heritage listed site. It's not just a building, it's a layered narrative etched in sandstone. Hambledon Cottage. Built in 1824 by John MacArthur as part of the Elizabeth Farm estate, the cottage served as additional accommodation for family and guests. Designed in the Colonial Georgian style, the cottage features sandstone bricks, elegant French doors that open onto a wide veranda. Its construction reflects the aspirations of the MacArthur family and the architectural trends of the period. Over the years, it was housed notable figures including Major General Sir Edward MacArthur. Today, the cottage operates as a house museum managed by the Parramatta District Historical Society. That was Hambledon Cottage, 1824. Let's get on to the next oldest building in Australia.
Completed in 1824, St James Church is one of Sydney's oldest surviving churches and a masterpiece of Georgian architecture designed by the convict architect Francis Greenway. Commissioned by Governor Macquarie, it was built to serve the spiritual needs of the rapidly growing colonial population in Sydney. Positioned at the edge of the city's first formal park, the church stands as a symbol of order and faith in an often chaotic early Sydney. Constructed from local sandstone with elegant, restrained detailing, St James combines classical proportions of Gothic touches, included pointed arches and stained glass windows. Inside, the simple yet majestic interior offers a glimpse into the religious life of the colony's earliest settlers. Today, the church remains an active place of worship and a treasured heritage site. It bridges Sydney's colonial past with its vibrant present.
Thanks for joining us in today's video. Those are some of Australia's oldest surviving buildings. Most of those were close to 200 years old, which is not really old in European terms, but for Australia, these are some of the oldest structures that we have around. Hope you liked it. Stick with me, guys. We've got lots more coming up in regards to challenge videos, but let's leave it there for today and catch you on the next one.